I've been thinking lately about a moment in time that that crystallized for me when my ego saved me from itself. Really,
Okay.
is where it was. I was on stage at Mac Tech, which is it hasn't happened since COVID lockdowns. I'm not sure what the status of its future is or anything.
Yep.
But it was a conference for people using Apple products mainly in business and the enterprise.
Okay.
It was right, like
Not consumer like Macworld was or whatever.
yeah, not consumer like Macworld. Like it was very technically focused. There certainly were a lot of people there that were, that used like Apple computers or computers in general at home, but they also were managing computers either for, there were a lot of lone wolf style consultants there that managed,
sure.
hundreds of people's computers a year or whatever. And some who had built businesses with multiple people around that concept, but then also like the person at a university who managed the whole tech department, those kinds of people would go. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Right. So one year I was invited to do a session, which was was great. And I did a session on Synology, the network storage devices.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I put together a session. I had given it a similar version of it at another conference, and it's always a good idea to find ways to reuse your sessions, A, because you don't have to write them from scratch, and B,
let me just add, you were explaining what a network storage device is and how to use it, basically?
And how to use it, like going into some very specific use cases of how to use this thing. I mean, I did explain what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't really have to for that particular crowd. It was intermediate to advanced at that point. But I certainly did explain what it was for anybody that didn't know. And and then it was like, all right, here's how you would do it to like run your own Google Docs thing so that you're not storing your data with Google. You get to do it
cloud,
here, private cloud, all that stuff. Right, exactly.
Awesome. Okay.
How to manage your backups on it, like all those things. And so it was a session I'd given before. I was very confident with the timing of it, all of those things. Like I hit the stage in great shape. And then... and I always tell people at sessions, I say, hey, look, I want this to be interactive. So please, if something comes up, raise your hand. I will get to you and we'll address your question in line. And I always make a little joke like, however, I reserve the right to change my mind on this if you folks get out of hand. Because I got to be in charge, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to get through to the end. And that was actually another lesson I learned at a different presentation.
I like it.
But But so I start going, hand comes up, I get to a point, it's like I can, yes, your question. And it wasn't a question. It was a comment adding more detail to what I had just talked about. And it was stuff
that's challenging.
I didn't know. And in that moment, but it was valuable and it was well articulated. It wasn't like this person wanted to just bloviate and be the speaker.
Great. He was trying to add value to what you had said.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
And succeeded at it. However, it was the first time I'd really experienced that when I realized, wait a minute, there's no way in the world that I am the smartest person about Synology in this room. I knew I wasn't the smartest person in general in the room, but when you're on stage, you're the expert about a certain thing. That's at least the mindset.
That's
most
why you're
people,
there, right?
That's why you're there.
Yeah,
yep.
I've been there. Yeah,
and it was, and I had to in that moment. It was a blow to my ego, of course, like realizing this, and this was like a split second where all of these thoughts that I'm going to take 4 minutes to explain, sort of processed. It was like, wait, holy crap, okay. That person really should be the one up here giving this, but they're not.
No.
I'm the one up here giving this. So we all know right now that this person knows more than me about at least this aspect of how the Synology systems work. There's zero question in my mind, and I have to assume everybody else sees it too, because they're all smart people, and so why wouldn't they? And I thought, that's okay. Because my job is being the MC here. I am guiding us through this. I know that there's a path to take us through that will get the majority of people in the room what they were promised when they came in, because I wrote the session description, right?
Yeah, that's nice.
And so it was at that point that, like I said, my ego saved me from itself. It was a huge blow to realize, wait a minute, like, I might have already said something that was wrong and this person knows it, Yeah. And changing from being like, wait, that's okay. This is great. In fact, as long as I can manage them well, we can make this a very interactive conversation, perhaps more interactive than I had intended, and get the right information out for everyone in the room. But I got to be the one holding the reins.
Yes.
And that's the only thing that I need to do.
It's a great framework, man.
Right? But like, I did not walk on stage ever having even thought about that. And it was this, I don't know how long it would have taken me to think of that if it weren't an emergency moment.
Like where you had to make a decision.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, that's tough.
Because I need to figure out a way to get through the next 35
it's like dealing
minutes.
with a heckler, right? How
Exactly.
do you spin
right.
it?
But they weren't a heckler, like, to be clear.
Correct.
Yeah.
But thankfully. But yeah, that framework is powerful in so many different areas. I would say it's just like us doing this podcast.
Oh, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
And it came up. I mean, this was 10 years ago that this happened for me, probably longer. And like, it has become so much a part of how I present information, how I am on stage, that it's rare that I even think about that moment, although that moment is crystallized in my memory. Like I will never forget what it felt like in that, all of it. But it was just like, I've adopted it as part of the way to do things, because it's for me, it's a good way to do things.
Yep. I absolutely. And I think that, I sitting here listening to you and applying it to kind of where I'm at. If you like, even posting on social media as something where you're oftentimes to get attention, you have to make a definitive statement, right?
Yes.
Even to the point where maybe it's a little bit of hyperbole and then you're walking it back. Well, there's all kinds of people that come into the comments that are, quote, experts in this and probably do know more than you. But if they make a comment or a question or a contradiction in a decent manner, let's say, you can lean into that and go, dude, that's so great. Or hey,
thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Be positive. And I think it's terrific because it is adding that, we're all trying to learn here.
Well, that's it.
Great. I love that idea.
My Mac Geek Gab podcast, we say at the beginning of every episode, we organize things into an agenda so that we can each learn 5 new things every single time we get together. You can hear it rolls off my tongue. I've said it, hundreds of times. And I have to think that moment at MacStock at Mac Tech. Mac Stock is a show that's coming up soon. That moment at Mac Tech might have been part of that sort of redefinition of or evolution of that show, because it's like, well, wait, we're all just here to learn. And guess what? If I show you, my audience, that I am just as willing to learn as I am asking you to be, I'm now modeling the behavior I want from you, and we all can learn together. And it's not manipulative in a Machiavellian way. I mean, it's sincere. Like, I have to actually model that behavior, not fake it, right?
Yeah.